Well, hello, everyone. We're bringing some real talk to the F word today. So, I just came back from a couple of weeks at personal development, and who should be in the hot seat but Dr. Travis Parry? How are you today?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me, Cheryl.
Yeah, I'm excited about our talk. So he's going to be joining us to talk about this elusive concept of balance. Travis is a best-selling author of Achieving Balance, the Make Time Method to help advisors reach business and personal goals in an overworked world. He started in the financial industry as a financial advisor himself and saw many couples who weren't on the same page financially. And we're going to actually chat about his background here momentarily because I think you'll see how it all kind of ties together. Dr. Parry now focuses his effort to help financial professionals. So that's you out there, my people, advisors, financial service professionals, financial planners, wealth managers, whatever you call yourself in that space, because everybody has one, and realtors. We have a lot of realtors in our females in finance landscape as well. To make time at work so you can spend it at home with your family. He and his wife are parents to 6 children. Another blessing on the way in September. Welcome to the F word, Travis. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great now that the word is out. We got, number 7 coming in September. So we're excited.
I'm very, very, very excited for you. And I'm sure everybody listening and those within the females and finance community will be checking in and praying for you guys to have
Thank you.
an easy delivery, easy baby number 7. I don't know if anybody's ever said that. Oh, I love it.
Is that even possible?
Hey, I don't know. I got 6 kids. We
There
both
you
got
go.
6, but you beat me out. So I'll let you
There we
win
go.
that one.
Okay, I win.
Yeah. So I always love telling people how I get to meet cool people such as yourself. And this one I have to give a nod to Derek Notman and Adam Holt as an introduction of sorts, because you and I belong to a couple of influence groups. Especially on LinkedIn, and your material just kept shining brightly to me. Like I'd look over and go, oh, I get that. I understand that. And I'm somebody who tends to be a little bit of more of a noodler, a lingerer. I like to read and see what people are about. And then I reached out to you, and you were just delightful. I,
Oh, thank you. Well, you have an amazing spirit, and I love that about you. Just
mm,
incredibly happy. It's hard not to smile just talking to you. So
I appreciate that.
I
My father used to call
appreciate
me
just hanging
the
out.
little Miss Ray of Sunshine, the little Miss
That's
Sparkle,
it.
because I'd come
That's
in
it.
and yeah, I think I fear that it has rubbed off onto my granddaughter Boogie. So
Uh-oh.
her name's Roya. She has a real name, but we call her Boogie, and she's the little child that runs into the room and she's like, hi, like she has no idea. And
I'm
then my
here. Yeah,
my
I got one of
granddaughter Avery's
those.
like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. That's just not it. So I love it. I love it. All right. So
Yeah.
I want to talk about your book, Achieving Balance. I have it here because it's all marked up with my notes.
Boom.
But I want to first talk about your career. How'd you get here?
Oof. So the short story is I fell into financial planning, uh, and I realized that there were some major issues that I was struggling with as an advisor, and I thought, well, I will just become an entrepreneur and start my own business because that there's no way that would cause any problems. And so I did. In the best time that one could ever start in this industry in 2008, right when everything was just tanking. And, I was just kind of sitting there as I'm eating crow in my home office going, what am I doing? I'm struggling with starting my own company, having a logo on top of like the recession. And it was so much stress. And I realized I needed help. I needed balance.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, all right, I needed some help, and I got coached on how to improve my time management. And that really helped me want to explore it more and
Yeah.
then serve other advisors.
Yeah, I have to tell you. So, we're going to talk here in a second about the actual balance thing. But for those of you who have not read Achieving Balance, I highly recommend it. Very easy read. Actually, so I tend to be, because I'm a marketer at heart, I got a bunch of words back that say I do a good job in that. I love the fact that your book is the font size is wonderful for us, a little older, probably in need of the balance thing. But I also love the way you opened your book and you spoke about your father right off the bat. I was like, well, doggone it, he's already got me in. And
Mhm.
one of the things that you said in here, I want to read a couple of Dr. Parry quotes in here, and hopefully he doesn't get embarrassed. But there was one I actually quoted very recently to someone when I was in Houston. I took a picture of this quote, and actually it says, it's on just in your opening of your book. And you said, for the dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth. And now only those who love them know what that little line is worth. And I was like shook. I was shook. I was like, oh my gosh, I took a picture of it on my phone. And when I went somewhere, I was talking about how I turned 50 this year. So for all intents and
Congrats.
purposes, yeah, I'm hanging in there, I'm hanging in there. But for all intents and purposes, for the average human being, I kind of know I'm on the other side of the dash. Like I'm headed to that. If I get to be 129, I don't
Hey,
know.
50 is the new 40, right?
Is
I mean,
it?
so
Oh,
yeah, you're
my
just halfway. So,
well, my kids are going to listen to this and go, no, 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 no. She's not living to 129.
uh,
No, 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 no.
nah,
But, I think that that's where all of a sudden what happened was I read your book.
mhm,
Then I have friends that are they're LDS members that had invited
mhm.
me to a personal development course down in Houston. And I went. And I've teased you before and said, I'm honorary LDS.
Yes,
So
yes, you
that's,
have.
yeah. And so we went, and I have got to tell you that that time that I went into this was extremely negative for me, because I was like pushing against, like, no, I don't want you in my head. We're not going there. I've kind of shut those things down. And here we go into this intensive, and it opened it up. And I started learning, like, oh my gosh. And your book hit on a lot of those points. So I'm
Yeah,
telling you right now that this book, if all you do is just go out and read cover to cover and do the exercises that you talk about, and you give really good examples, real life examples, none of this like, oh, one day, like these are achievable things that you can be doing in here. I felt I felt very strongly that I was meant to meet you back when I did. That led me to this, to take a picture of that, to talk about this. I actually talked about this quote with a group of people,
thank you. I'll tell you
and
how I got that poem. I'll tell you how I got that poem, because that poem, The Dash, I never heard of, but because I was
I hadn't
interviewing
either.
people, when I was interviewing people for the book, a friend of mine was like, "Dude, my dad passed away too." I was like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, heart attack." I was like, "What?" So we had this like instant connection, and he said, "At my dad's funeral, I read this poem, and it was perfect. It's called The Dash. Have you ever heard of it?" I'm like, "No." And he sent it to me, and I was like, that's going in the book. Like, that is everything that I'm standing for here, is like, how do you live your life with such intention and purpose that you can
Mhm.
be okay with that dash? And then the other day I was asked to, well, it was a couple months now, I was asked to speak at a conference in Dallas. And I spoke at the conference, and I had this idea, I'm going to read this poem at the end of my speech. I don't do that. I'm not a poet.
Yeah.
I don't memorize poetry. But when I did, like, people were like standing up, clapping with tears in their eyes, because it really moved them, to really focus in on what matters most. And I think advisors, we're so good at helping our clients, right?
Yeah.
But taking care of ourselves, like doing the things that we know we should be doing, tends to kind of fall last on our list. So I think it hits home with for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I believe that. So do you know who Brendan Burchard is?
Yeah,
He's an
yeah, yeah.
okay. So I feel like you are like the Brendan Burchard of financial services, like, but except that we can actually talk to you. He's a little bit more difficult. And I say that honestly with
That's
the most
kind.
respect, because he is somebody that he talks about living your life with intention. And you
Yeah.
said on here, I knew I was not living my dash the way I should. I was not living my life on purpose. And man, that really got me. That really got me, because just a couple pages later, you said the industry I had grown up in professionally perpetuated a workaholic mentality. Boom. And there I was. I felt exposed. I was like, he's telling on me right here in this book. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I don't.
No.
And one of the things I told you we were going to talk about today when we met was this transparency of the word balance. Women are oftentimes really bombarded with that question in interviews, whether they're professional interviews of celebrities, like, how do you do it all? And, or, how do you balance your career and family? And we get a little dismissive and even a little, I would say that I even get a little bit aggravated when somebody looks to me and wants to know about balance, because what I have found is that this question tends to come to us in a way to see what we prioritize. Where are we putting our values? And you talk about this a lot in your book. But I also think the way that you address it in the book is beautiful, because you talk about it being myths, and it's very androgynous. As men or women can read this book and get something very specific out of it, because I think we're all victims of busyness in our lives versus just getting our business done. So do you want
For
to talk
sure.
about myths, about what that met means?
Yeah, I'm going to hire you to write the marketing for my next book, because you just like these one-liners are great, like the busyness versus our business. So true. So I think the idea of balance is that in 1980s version of balance was, let's get everything, equal in every box in our life, right? And if we don't, somehow we're out of balance. It's just not true. The more I've interviewed and more I've researched, you're in balance when you are living your highest priorities.
Mhm.
And if your lowest priorities are, that's where you're spending most of your time, then that's where you're feeling the stress. That's when you're out of balance. And we have work-life harmony, work-life integration, like all these new terms to
Mhm.
try to say balance is old hat. Balance is not old hat. It's just sold to us wrong. And so I'm trying to bring it back. I'm trying to bring balance back, bring it sexy back. I'm trying to bring balance back because it's an important topic that I think is being pushed aside and being
Agree.
called other things. But if we can put our priorities in order and put our time towards those priorities, we're going to be fine. And that's why I don't have like 8 baby steps to, this is my values, and you have to follow Travis Parry. No, it's, what are your values? Explore that. Find out what's so meaningful to you, and then make a plan to follow it.
So simple, right? It is. And one of the things that I realized in this personal development phase of things, I wish that I had done some of this much earlier on. I'm not going to lie. I wish, but you can't go back. And it is. And you know what? Maybe this is what I was supposed to explore today, so that I can go out there and be on this mission to do my personal development out loud so people can see it. And what personal development out loud in my mind, what that means, and I just made that up. So if somebody wants to go and trademark it, go. But it is setting your boundaries in a way that people can see them and appreciate them for what they are. So, for example, one of the things you and I talked about before we pressed record is this idea of our families. I have got to believe, one, I know that I feel like you're uniquely positioned in financial services to be that expert in the area of balance, especially because of your background in family and in social science. So not a lot of people write books like this actually have a background to that degree. They have other things they've done, yes, but you've actually been practicing in this space. What I'm really curious to find out is how many of the professionals that you're meeting with talk about the values. And the values, oftentimes for me, if I were to get really real right now, what do I value? I love my family. I love my children because they are a piece of my body. I love them. And I want to spend time with them, and I want to see them more often. I want to call them more often. And yet I feel a pull from this workaholic space. No, 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 no. That's frivolous. You don't need to
Yeah.
call your son today and ask, how he's doing. You don't need to check in with your daughter on how her shift was at the whatever. That's frivolous compared to the work that's right here. I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. I'm going to break this down, because I've actually researched this on a family level. When you're a working spouse or a non-working spouse, there are different issues, but it is one and the same, and that is where your values are, where your heart is. So as a working spouse, there's a book out there for females called The Second Shift. If you haven't read it and you're a working female entrepreneur, financial advisor, real estate agent, doesn't matter. I think there is a huge learning opportunity to read in this book. Author outlines how most women are expected to work nowadays, but then they're also expected to be the first one to go and pick up the kids from school. And when they get home, the house should be clean and the dinner on the table. Like there's this expectation, I think, that is absolutely unrealistic
Thank
for
you.
women, working women. Of this, just unrealistic. Um, and and my wife, she has we have 6 children, right? Does she work? Every single day? She works because she's a homeschool mom and she teaches them every single day. She's finding classes. She is doing, running them around, teaching them, all the arithmetic and reading and all these things like every single day. But here's the thing, regardless, working, non-working, spouse, working for money, not working for money. That's kind of how I,
Yeah.
define it. It is the same. You have a role. You have something that you are doing. If that's full-time mom, go be full-time mom. Do it. If you're a working mother, be working mother. But then when you get home, there needs to be time for you. You need to work out. You need to eat right. You need to relax. You
Yeah.
need to do all those other things and not be this second shift worker, because you will burn out, you will stress out, and you will die young. And unfortunately, at least on the male aspect, is a totally different world. It's work really hard, work really late, do it for the family, okay, for a good reason, right? The heart is there, like do it for the
Mhm.
family, and then come home and then peace out. Like I'm gonna watch TV, I'm gonna do my thing because I deserve it. I deserve to veg, instead of, oh, let's be with the family. Let's enjoy time. Let's be healthy. Let's do these things that really cause balance and break versus
Yeah.
just mind numbing. So there's two different spectrums here.
Mm. I really love that because I think that is one of the, I still feel, and I can say this, growing up in Missouri, I feel that this is also a little situational where you're at. Because, for example, we grew up as kids. I grew up in that more traditional, hey, you're going to grow up and, get a job, but you're going to take care of your house. And you feel this calling, like it is there. And my husband is so good about, you don't have to do all of that. I'll do it. I've got some of this. Don't worry about it. And I'm over there going, what, and he's helping me achieve my balance so that I'm not stressed out. So at the end of the day that I am, fully available and can talk and not be like, oh, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes with it too. You get resentful and martyrish and
Sure.
yada, yada.
Mhm.
And that's all stuff. A lot of times we're making up in our heads. We're just making it up. It's not
Mhm.
real. And I know that sounds really hard for some people maybe who's listening to this or watching this right now, that you're just making it up in your head. One of the things that I did recently was talking about the values. I actually wrote down the list of the things that I value. Like, what do I value in my life? And I gotta tell you, I don't think that any of none of them, first of all, were like physical things. None of them were things. Um, Human beings, but not things. Okay. So I didn't put in
Yeah.
my house or my car, my zip code, none of that. I did put travel down because it was the experience of being able to go somewhere. I did, obviously put my family down and some of my friends, and my work was something I value. What I do at Females Events, I actually value the work that I do. So that was on my list. But all of a sudden, when I started getting really real about that list of where I wanted to spend my time, I want to be with my family.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
clear. Like talking with you, like we, we just talked about family for like 10 minutes before the show. Yeah, your family is huge on your values window.
Yeah.
And but I will tell you, most people, this is very, very same, very similar. Their marriage and their
Yep.
family
Yep.
are number one and number two. And the research shows that. The research does show that, and is part of the myths that we talk about. But I will kind of go back to one of the things you're talking about, because we talked about females and, and working moms, and then we also talked about the other aspect of men and their struggles. But you kind of put it together. It's when the two of you support each other.
Mhm.
It's okay, these are your struggles, this is what you want to achieve, well, this is what I want to achieve. Research shows when you have similar values and when you support each other's values,
Mhm.
that's when the relationship thrives. When you don't support each other's goals or values, that's when the resentment starts. That's when those feelings begin because you're insecure, you don't feel supported. But when you support each other, that's what a marriage should be. Every couple has got to figure that out themselves, right? They got to figure out what are their goals together, but then supporting their individual goals as an individual is just as important.
Love that. I love that. So, I'm always about actionable education. Anybody who knows me, because I feel like, for example, and where I got this was, how many conferences have we gone to in the past where we were like, that is great. And you walk out the door and there's something magical that happens beyond the door, that you're poof, go back into real space. And then you don't do the amazing things that you just heard someone say. So what's something you want to impart on the listeners, the watchers today, that in all that you shared about finding this lost time and the prioritizing of values and accomplishing goals that you set for yourself, et cetera, what's some advice you'd want to give another financial service professional that they could take and immediately act on?
Yeah, I'd say have an ideal calendar that reflects your values and priorities. If you don't have an ideal
Mm,
calendar, the book, I outline it. I give all the steps. It's all right there.
yep, you do.
And you can get it for shipping only right now at achievingbalancebook.com. It's still available, and you can even get the pre-order for the audio and you can listen to it. You can download the worksheets, but get an ideal calendar so that you can begin working toward what you think you're doing. A lot of people, as I'm working with them, oh yeah, I think I'm working 45 hours a week. Yeah, you're working 65.
Yeah.
When we flush it out, we find
Yeah.
out like we're truthful. So, take the time to figure out where you'd want to be working, where you want to spend your time,
Yeah.
business, and then everything personal. Everything personal. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to always live your ideal calendar, but it gives you something to shoot for and it gives you something to aim for. And I found that when you can put your time where your values and priorities and goals are, your goals happen automatically. They just do. Because what? You've spent the time and you've planned to do it and it happens. It's not magic, it's just logic.
I love that. And I'm going to tell you what I just heard you say. So we talk about in investments, investing, making sure you pay yourself first. We hear this in every book. All you just said, and what I heard was you're paying your time first by
That's right.
putting that on there and then building your life around it. I'm
Love that.
telling you
Great
right
analogy.
there. That was it. That was it. All right. So I love to always wrap interviews in a fun way because I interview every guest and ask them 3 questions that they don't get to know, and I answer them too. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Well,
All right.
I'm not ready, but I'm going to do it.
They don't get these folks. They don't get these questions ahead of time. Otherwise, you're all planners. You'll plan them all out and they'll be like these perfect, pristine answers. That's it. All right. So number 1, do you have a moment in your life you wish you could relive?
Yeah. I think the moment that I would relive is my wedding day. I think I was so nervous. I think it was like all those nerves and family and like looking back, it's like, just relax, chill.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be okay. But there was one thing good that we did that day. We had the reception the night before. So when we had the wedding, we said goodbye to family and then we went off on our merry way. And it was awesome. We loved that. I highly
That's a good
recommend it.
idea.
Yeah.
That's a
That way
really
there's
good
not,
idea.
yeah. So we try to get all that stress, relieved the night before. And then 2 weeks later, we had another reception at my wife's place in Idaho. So then it was like, yeah, we were chill. But yeah, that was one day I just wish that so many couples could just relax about, quit making that it is a big day. It's a huge day, but I think we make it worse and we stress ourselves out.
Yeah, we got married in December of 2019. And when we had our party thing, you can't even you start to take a bite and someone talks to you and you're like, hi.
Yeah.
And we finally, at the end of the night, my husband's like, have you had anything to eat or drink? I'm like, no, nothing. I'm so hungry. He's like, what? We just spent thousands of dollars on food. I'm like, I didn't get any of it. I didn't get it. My moment to relive. So my mom passed away when I was 6. But I have this one memory of her and my dad. And I remember we had gone to the lake. We had a house, we had a cabin on the lake. And I remembered sitting in the back of my dad's blue van. The doors were open and she was giving us Kentucky Fried Chicken. And do you remember they used to have like the mashed potatoes and little thing with
Oh
the
yeah.
sporks?
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking
Oh yeah.
about,
I
right?
love the sporks.
I love the
Sporks are great.
sporks and and it was that little styrofoam thing. Sorry, Earth.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was terrible. And then lots of those ended up in landfills. But that moment of smelling the chicken, having my spork, I can
That's
see
cool.
my mom and her hair was this, she had really big
Yeah.
hair and it was really
Everybody
like
had big hair.
yeah, very rich red, like deep,
Yeah.
auburn hair. And
Oh,
she had a
cool.
headband in these big sunglasses and she was happy.
That's cute.
And I remember that. And I would go back to that second, giving them an opportunity to live that for 5 minutes, even.
I
I
love
would,
that.
I would give up 10 years to go back for that 5 minutes of sitting there because it was just pure joy.
That's cool.
I think it's great. And then I
That's for
love it.
sure.
All right. Number two, what destinations at the top of places you want to visit?
So right now, I want to take my daughter to France because that's her senior trip. And France, we just found out yesterday they opened up. My wife's like, should we buy tickets right now? I'm like, oh, so many unknowns.
So many
But yeah,
unknowns. Yeah.
and I've never been there. I've been
Okay.
to England and Wales and Denmark. My
Okay.
grandma's from Denmark, so I love going back there and visiting family. But I've never done the France Germany thing, so I want to do that.
Gotcha.
Yep.
I know. So Italy's still at the top of my list, although
Yep.
Switzerland's becoming a second close
Ooh,
one. I know
yep.
Daryl's
It's
probably
pretty.
going, yeah,
Yeah.
we watch TikTok and we'll see these like travel TikToks on there and they go to Switzerland
Sure.
all the time. And I'm like, I want to go do that. I want to go do that. So that's on the list. Number three, what is something your parents did as a child that you look back on and really liked?
Hmm. That's a good question. My parents really love to go camping, and
Oh,
I'm
I'm glad those were
so
your
glad.
parents.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, now as an adult, it's like we have like go get a trailer, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the type of camping. But I did spend a whole week at Lake Powell with my sons on a camping, excursion with the church group, and in a tent. Like you have to at least air mattress it, or be in a cot or something. But even then, like it's nothing glamorous. But I enjoy that, and my family enjoys that. We need to do that more. That's definitely something that I think they instilled in me, and my wife and I really do enjoy that. But between having kids, is like you have to time things. Like, can we go camp now? Can we hike those mountains? We just have to be flexible.
Aware of all the little,
Yeah.
the littles and the bigs
Hmm.
and what they can
Yep.
handle.
And
I get
having
it.
having the backpacks that the kids go in. So we do that all the time.
Wow. So I remember one of the things my memory, and it's very short because of, my mom, passing away. She was 39, but I remember my parents they had a buffet that had a record player in it, and it
Mm.
was in our dining room. My mother loved music. And so she would get up in the morning and she did go to work. She worked at McDonnell Douglas with my dad and they built airplanes all day, and they'd come home and they were on the same shift, and she would put records in and she and my dad would dance in the kitchen in
Love
the
it.
hallway, and I still can remember sitting at the table
That's cool.
watching them, and it was so sweet. And it was one of those moments that I look back on that and I think I really liked that they liked each other, like they were just
Absolutely.
on the same. It was really
Same
cool.
wavelength.
So
That's great.
yeah, so we're going to make certain that we provide a link to all the ways to reach out and connect with you. I'm just super grateful for this time. Finally, if everybody knew how many times we've been trying to make this happen, and I was sick and then something happened, but we're here and it's
We
done,
got
and
it.
I'm so happy, and you've just brought so much joy to everyone
Oh, thanks,
listening and
Cheryl.
to me. I appreciate this so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. For the listeners, I want to thank you for listening to today's episode of The F Word. You can learn more about our guest. It's Dr. Travis Parry. Come on. You want to, you should reach out and he'll connect with you. He's wonderful. We'll make certain that we have all of the links for the ways to connect with him on his episode page. And if you love this podcast, because you did, I would love for you to make sure you put hashtag females and finance around it so we can engage with you as well. And we always want you to remember it's the F word. It's where females and finance are not dirty words. Thank you, Dr. Travis Parry. You're the best.
Thanks.